Okay, welcome to the second class of watercolor depicting the natural world. And so today we start with something easy but fun. I went out, all these beautiful leaves, and we're going to try to match the color that you see here. See all sort of colors. Not just match the color, but you see also how these colors kind of blend into from a green to a yellow to a reddish brown to a darker brown. And so we will learn also to put down a wash of watercolor, an even wash of watercolor. And then, so these are the things we're going to do today. Wash of watercolor, right? Watercolor wash. And then we are going to blending colors, and then wet on wet, and then wet on dry, and we'll see what that means. But before we do that, I want to keep going a little bit with the color mixing, because I didn't want to tell you the whole thing the first day because you would get scared. But there's another way of mixing the colors. So if we when we mix the colors, right? We see we do yellow plus red, and two primaries make a secondary color, right? So, but then now, if we mix for example, yellow. Let's do this because it's yellow with a secondary, in this case, at the opposite of that. These are complementary colors, right? Complementary, not free. Doesn't mean free. It's spelled differently. Complementary. I know, you know what it means, but I'm just joking. Complementary colors, and they are opposite. So the pairs are yellow and violet, orange and blue, and red and green. So these make the complementary pairs. All right. So what happens when we mix two complementary colors? So we'll see. So if I take leaves, if I take now, let's say, a little bit of my red, right? And I need now some green. So I'm going to mix some green first. So yellow and a little bit blue. And get in the, so I make a nice green. Well, nice, kind of muddy green, but it's green nonetheless, right? So now I need red. Let's go with this red here, right? Nice, beautiful red. I put it down in here, and look how bright and chromatic that is. Really, really nice red, right? So, but sometimes I don't need to paint. I mean, if I need to paint a Ferrari, that's the right color, right? But maybe if I need to paint something that is not so strong, so highly chromatic, I need to subdue that color. So what I do, I take a little bit of the complementary, and now my red becomes a little bit less garish, a little bit less garish, right? So see how kind of gradually it decreases in chroma. So what I'm doing here, I am lowering the chroma of the red, in this case, with its complementary. So I could lower the chroma of any color with black, for example. But black is a very powerful pigment, and sometimes it kills the chroma too much. In fact, almost always kills the chroma too much. But see, now I start having all these beautiful reds that go from bright, highly chromatic cadmium medium red to a terracotta red, beautiful. Like it could be an English red, it could be a burnt sienna. See that? So, so now, as part of the next exercise, I would like you to mix now. Let me write it down. The complementaries together. So mix. Create a string like I did here now. Create a string of. So let's say go with yellow and violet, and then create a string of colors, either here or here, whichever way, whatever you want. Be like, I would say 6, 10 colors, right? And same thing now with these two guys here, with the red and green. Create a string of colors. And then the same thing with orange and blue, create another string of colors that are the result of mixing two complementaries, okay? So you see how we add more and more colors to the possibilities, to the original hundreds already colors that we achieved by mixing first the cool triad and then the warm triad, and then gradually increasing the amount of one of the two colors in the mix and decreasing the other color in the mix. So we really get easily into the hundreds and hundreds of colors just by knowing how to make them interact, okay? So once you have understood this idea of the color mixing, you can use any other color that you want. So, for example, I'm going to have not just two blues. I'm going to have maybe 5 or 6 different blues in my palette. No, so I could have indigo. I could have Indian throne. I could have ultramarine light and dark. I could have cerulean. So many turquoise. So many blues that really we get into the thousand of colors, right? So imagine same thing for the red. You know, I have all these types of reds, cool and warm and more or less pure. And same thing for the yellows, so many yellows too. So, but once you understand how to mix these colors here, then you can buy some extra colors to add to your palette. But don't buy too many, right? Buy gradually. You treat yourself once in a while. You go, well, I'm going to buy 3 different primary colors, right? I'm going to one yellow, one blue, one red, new ones, and then you try them, get to know them, try to understand how they work and what it is that it can give you in terms of new colors, color mixing possibilities. I think when you have about 24 colors, you can really have thousand and thousand possibilities, and that's really all you need. And most of the time, having an extended palette like 24, 36 color, 48 is just so that you don't have mixed too many colors. But mixing colors is fundamental to understand how you can replicate, for example, a color that you see in nature. So now let's see what happened when we get to copying these beautiful leaves. And I will start with a very simple leaf, right? So this is a poplar leaf or a tulip tree, same thing. We have a leaf from a walnut, like look how beautiful mix of yellow and green we have in here. I have, but I have a maple. This is really PhD coloring. Look how beautiful it is. You have go from green to yellow, red with some dark brown in between and some green gray. So this is just, we look at the stem, how beautiful this is. Really orange, right? Beautiful. So, I would like to. This is a sassafras. Sassafras smells divine. Sassafras is either like this, or that's how you tell the sassafras, or this. You got the mint. You got the mint quality. So that's a sassafras, and it's incredibly. Look how funky it is. It's half red and half a nice, beautiful, I would say sap green, gorgeous, right? So yeah, leaves are make you happy, right? In the winter or in the fall, actually, when days are getting gray and we start starving for colors or kind of longing for colors, then we go out, collect these. Look how beautiful they are. So you fill your eyes with joy. So now this is. This is, you might hear my daughter in the background. She's practicing piano, and so I don't have the courage to tell her to stop because she's so good, she's so cute, and I'm a sucker for that. So anyway, so now this, I don't know exactly what it is. Probably a oleaster, Russian olive. So let's go with a simple leaf like that, or like this, because now we want to limit the problem, right? So we're going to go with the center part of the leaf in here first, right? Because if we do that, I can then build around it the 2.5 much more easily. Make sense, right? So now I have this nice little thin outline. I don't want this to be too heavy because I'm afraid it's going to be visible later on through the layers of watercolor, and I don't want that. Look at this maple. Look how gorgeous it is with little dots, right? Okay, I'm gonna stop now. I'm gonna start painting, right? Okay, so now I look at this yellow, right, and I see it's kind of cool, let's say, compared to this yellow. See how warmer it is, right? So I'm going to go for my cool yellow here, this cool yellow here, right? And then what I'm going to do, let me put it here. Get it on my mixing plate. And there are two ways I could proceed with this. If, I'm going to show you how to do washes, right? If the surface to cover is not too big, I could just mix enough paint. You always want to mix enough paint to do the job done. You do not want to mix a little bit and be stingy and then start painting and then you run out of paint and then you have to mix again. As you do that, that will dry and the wash is going to be gone. But now I have enough paint in here. I want to check before I paint. And you want to do this on a separate piece of paper. If I like the dilution, if I like the intensity of the color, and I look at that and I'm thinking, it could be a little bit more than that. Not much, because I don't want to go too heavy with the first wash, but, close enough. So if I look at this leaf in here, it's different than that, but it doesn't matter. I see that there is really no highlights and white, which typically you don't see in leaves unless you have a photograph with a flash, then it will make a white spot. So now in here what I do, I just try to block in this paint in here, this wash in here with all of it with one brush stroke, and I put it down evenly everywhere, right? And if I do this before the paint dries, that will create an even wash, right? So and then I'm going to show you later how to do a bigger wash. Now I look at my leaf and I say, okay, you know what? That is warmer, so I need to kind of warm that up. So what I could do, I could get a little bit of red, right? And I could, well, let's do this, right? Let's put it everywhere, right? So I could do this way, right? Of course. Or I could do it because then it's a question really how good you get at evaluating the colors. Or maybe next time I could do the wash directly with that color there. So which brings in the layering of colors, right? But let me show you this now, right? Here, like that. So now, same thing, I mix enough color, right? I mix enough color. Check, always check if it's good, right? And I see that is a little bit too weak in terms of mix, so I need more yellow, a little bit more red, right? I look at this, I just look at the intensity of the color and then check it here, right? And I say, okay, I kind of like that. So now, same thing. And then go over with the wash, trying to, don't go over the previous passage too much. Just try to stay close to the margin, right? So it can be an even wash, and then do that. So basically, see how I achieve exactly the same color, right? So it will take a while to get into practice to achieve this kind of understanding of the color, of the mix, etc., etc. But you will get there, right? So now what happens in here, I'm going to have now, this is still wet, right? This is still wet. So I look at this color here. It's kind of a brownish red color, see that? So what I do, I'm going to, on the wet spot in here, I'm going to put in some areas of color that is mixed with the same yellow, but a little bit of red and green, right? Because remember when I showed you that red before, it was not by chance. So that red in there is a brownish red. It's like a terracotta red. It's earth red that is the color that I have there, right? So now I have mixed that color. I mix it with the two complementaries, and then I kind of here and there put all these little dots. Now, I'm doing this when that leaf, the first wash, is still wet. If I do this when that is still wet, right? So what happens is the color expands. The second layer of color expand into the first layer because it's wet. Now, depending how wet this first layer is, the more or less the paint will spread out. So now I have done this. This dried up a little bit, right? So because it dried up a little bit, now when I put in maybe a mix in now a little bit more of this beautiful red and green, right? And then I want to put in there a touch of blue, right? I get a little bit of blue. And now, see that, how quickly I get to, let me show you, to umber, an umber color. See that, it's umber, right? So now, I can put it now in this area here, right? Where it gets darker. But now, because the first layer is slightly more dry, the paint will not spread as much. The paint will be a little bit more localized, right? So, I can put some in here and there, and typically the darker areas are going to be on top of the darker color that I put in just now. They're going to be over the reddish area, so I have a kind of a sequence, right? So I'm going to have a yellow, red, earth, and then an umber color. So now I can also decide to have some sort of division between, because now it's fairly flat, right? So division between this part of the leaf and this part of the leaf, because they are at an angle, so I need to create some sense of volume. But I'm going to let that dry, and then now we go into this and see what happened when I put in the red on this, where the color is dry. This will stay there, right? It will stay exactly where I put it. It will not move around. If I want to achieve a blending, right, I had to kind of reduce the amount of paint and the brush and gradually spread it less and less. I can still do it, but the result is going to be, the margins of this are going to be a little bit more sharp, right? A little bit more sharp. So then I can go back and wetten the brush just with water and taking out the excess of water. I'm going to go over here, see the edges in here, and kind of soften up the edges like that. Now, when you do this with just pure water, don't do it for too long. Just do it just 1, 2, 3 and move on. Because what happened, the water that you put in there, I'm going to show you here, will, if I keep going with this, will eventually, well, in this case, it doesn't need much, right? Now I kind of dissolve the previous layers and create a hole. In this case, it doesn't, so probably that color is staining, so I'm lucky. Anyway, we'll have occasion to see this. So now, eventually, going back to that now is dry, I can kind of go back in with sharper and sharper little, see these little lines in the margin, right? See if I can see them. See these little dots and lines in the margin. I can go back and really capture all of those little, actually still a little bit wet, look how nice, right? Those little spots, right? And I could also create that sense of volume, curvature in the leaves in here with a quick wash without indulging too much in it. Same thing on the other side. And I could put down here a slightly darker color like that, right? And then blend it. It could be a darker color the same, or maybe a color that has been reducing chroma, etc. So with a complementary, etc. So so now we had seen the wash, right? And then we've seen the wet on wet, the wet on dry, and now I want to show you how to prepare a wash that is on a bigger surface. So let's see, we have, let's say we have a bigger leaf, right? And so I'm gonna still do a very, so actually do this shape in here, right? So we see we have this kind of stem in the middle, then we stem here is gone, right? And then we have now this half of the leaf here, right? And then it's gonna be higher, right? I'm gonna make it slightly different because it's not gonna fit, right? In my page like as is, right? So now that is a bigger leaf. So as I start painting in here, I'm going to have a problem that the paint will dry up, and it's going to create streaks. Now this is less visible with yellow because it's a very smooth pigment. But if I use a darker color, it's going to be much more visible. So let's use a red color and see what happens with that. Right? So actually, let me take a break so you guys can think about it. I don't want to make the videos too long. And then I'm going to come back and going to show you how to make a wash on a bigger surface and maybe blend into different colors together. Okay, I'll see you in a few minutes.